This is Eric with United. How are you, buddy? Your favorite business broker. How are you doing? Just wanted to take a minute and I wanted to go over a couple of things with you. I want to show you what the pawn shops have been selling for. I wanted to go over the documents with you. There seems to be a little confusion. I just want to try and clarify and show you why waiting necessarily, unless there's a reason that I'm not aware of, but historically waiting only eats up marketing time that we need. The more time we have on the market, the more people can look at the ads. The more people that can look at the ads, in theory, the higher price we can get for you faster. So waiting months to get numbers up and then doing it linearly, meaning one thing and then doing the other, it's just going to keep you on the market a lot longer than you need to be. Our philosophy is it's always a good time to do the marketing because you're collecting leads. And then when you have better numbers or financials, or we have a P&L statement or a pro forma or whatever, then at least I know who to call. Because it takes time to accumulate the people who may be interested in your specific set of circumstances. You have a unique set of circumstances. This is not a 3-bedroom house on a lake. This is a pawn shop, jewelry in a location with a building, a certain duration of ownership, all of that. The more time that you give me and my team to call the other agents, to run the ads, to call my database, to just start working for you, the better, in theory, it is for the owner. Regardless if there's a sale or not, we still want to accumulate 100 leads in order to get you that best offer. So let me just go over a couple of quick things with you. I'm going to make this short. Maybe it'll be a 2-part. I just wanted to share with you, when we sold the original location, we were asking 97. We were able to, the best, I don't remember how long we were on the market, but the best that we were able to get at that time for earnings of 120 was $90,000. There were assets worth 55. Now I'm seeing we have more than 55. We have 125 and 75, which is good. Now we would need a list of the furniture, fixtures, equipment, the inventory. We need a list of all of that. But if we don't have sales, that's okay. We don't have to have sales. You could just sell the value of the furniture, fixtures, equipment, and the inventory, and we can create a pro forma that looks similar to this. We can make a P&L statement, a forward-looking P&L statement that would say at $500,000 we would earn 120, the assets are 200, and we want 250 for the price. Now, I'm going to show you what businesses that don't have profit sell for. Generally, they sell for the value of the furniture, fixtures, equipment, and the inventory. So if your numbers are correct and it's 75 and 225, we're worth about 200 for the business. And that's why I said it's overpriced. So even if you were able to get $500,000 in sales on the tax return behind us, meaning you would have to be sometime next year, 12 months from now, to have these numbers and have profit and then do the marketing, now you're on the market a couple of years, which doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense for somebody who wants to sell, let's say it that way. So what we do is we write up a pro forma, which means you really didn't earn that money. The business really isn't worth that, in my opinion, and previous buyers' opinions, but we're going to try for it. So if you want us to try for it, it's going to take time on the market, because there's not going to be a line of people that can do this, want to do this, are looking to do this, can afford to do this in that area, and are available on your time frame, and so forth and so on. So we need marketing time. We clearly need marketing time. Regardless if you have the sales, regardless if you have the profit, what I do need is a list of the furniture, fixtures, and equipment. That's number one. Then the intake form was self-explanatory. You saw all of this. I understand that you wanted 250 for the business, which is fine. But do you want to try for 250 when it didn't work last time, with 500 in sales and 120 in profit, and the best we were able to get was 90? Your assets are worth more than that. At the very least, I think I can get you the asset value. I don't think the difference that you're shooting for, number one, is going to be offered to us in the future, and number two, I don't think it's worth waiting for the difference. Here's the Sunbiz, because we can say a pro forma and drop the hooks now, and if somebody says, no problem, you didn't earn it, but I believe I can earn it, then we have a sale and you didn't have to wait the time or do all the work. This listing agreement, I know we said 10% and 6%. I went here at 12 only because of the level of difficulty of what we're trying to sell. Because we don't have financials, we're not a 30-year business, we're not a second generation, third generation type of situation. We are asking more. See, this is really what we have at the moment. We have 200,000. If this is substantiated, we can try for 250 for as long as you want to, but I'm just asking for a longer protection period so that my money is spent and protected from the owner, and I'm making a wise investment here. So yeah, I am asking for 12. I can do 10. It's not a problem. I'm not going to lose a client over a couple points. However, you will lose agents over a couple of points because 90% of all deals require 2 brokerages. So this would be 6 for my office as a listing agent, 6 for the buyer's office. And that extra 1% might motivate agents to say, well, I know it's overpriced, but I'll show it to my buyer because I might stand to make a nicer commission. That's the way they look at it. If you don't agree, I'll move it to 10. We'll just get less opportunities. That's all. If you're not on the market long and you don't offer a good commission, a competitive commission, and we're overpriced and underdocumented, it just adds layers and layers of difficulty, which will stop a sale. I don't know if you have any other questions on here, but the real estate was pretty clear cut. I did see the purchase when you actually bought it. So you're making money on the real estate, making money on the business. I get it, except we don't have years and years of business documents. So you could either try for the 250 and then soften up later if we realize it's not going to work, or hold to the 250. At the very least, we need to get you on the market because nobody knows about it. Nobody could even make an offer, come and see you, none of that. So that's the listing agreement. Corporate resolution, very simple, straightforward. Then we have Volusia County Property Appraiser. I just mentioned that. I see what we paid for it. I see what we're trying to sell it for. We could get a professional real estate appraiser to appraise it. If we don't care and we just want the 250, then we just stick with the 250. This document was just to disclose to you what I just mentioned to you. I can do the 6% for the real estate, not a problem. I could do 10%. I could do any percent, but will it work? That's always the question, because the other agents don't want to waste their time with high-priced, underdocumented listings and cooperating with me if I'm offering the same commission as a more viable business that is a higher likelihood of them being able to sell and get paid. We're going to spend about $1,000 a week up front for several months, the first several months, collecting leads, calling agents, putting my team on it, and trying to get you the best offer we can. But again, my philosophy always is the more leads, the better. This is the BBF. I don't know if you're familiar with this or not, but this is the association I have my license with. I'm also a member of the Miami Board of Realtors. I also have 21 offices and 4,000 agents in United Realty. There's 60,000 agents in the Miami Board, 900 plus in the BBF. These are guys that are all specialists in small businesses. So I've done this before. I've been doing this since 1989. I know how to get it done, but ultimately I do as the owner always asks. If I do all categories, you're going to see, and this is the sold database. There is an active database, but this is the sold database, which is what tells us what willing buyers, willing sellers without compulsion have agreed to sell for. So here's what happened. We have pawn shops, right? And let me just make sure there was no other filters on here. The only filter I have here is, so all the different kind of businesses, right? I could look up anything you want, but when I look up financial, and we know what they sell for because we sold one. You sold one with me, okay? You sold yours. So we know what they sell for, but we could try for any number you want. So here, all time frames, 18 have sold over the last 22 years with 900 teams in Florida trying to sell. So what we want to do is we want to look at these and say which ones are most similar to the one that I'm trying to sell, that Eric is trying to sell. If these were all 4-bedroom on the Intracoastal and I'm selling a 3-bedroom dry lot, I got to find the ones that are a 3-bedroom dry lot, as opposed to, you see what I'm saying? If it was cars, you got to compare it by the year, sedan versus a coupe, 8-cylinder versus 6-cylinder, how many miles. But with businesses, these are the categories that they're looking at. They're looking at how much in assets, and you do have a lot of assets if we can verify that. So if it's truly what you say, and we can make a list that people believe and you've signed off on, and when they look on eBay or Craigslist, they can buy those same assets for the same value, then they'll agree that the asset value is 200. So it's the asset value and the earnings and the sales. That's what they're looking at. If we did it by this, if we did by small to highest, I would get rid of the highest because we do not have this, because we do not have the sales. But just to show you as a group, all the pawn shops have sold for an average of 1.34. Took about 4 months in average, 90% down payment. Rent was about 21% of their sales. But we are not like all of these. We are not 30 years in business. We do not have $3 million in revenue. So I have to start chopping away at this. Watch, when I remove this guy, watch what happens to the 1.34. 1.41. It actually went the other direction. I'm surprised. I know, for example, this guy who had 5 years earnings had very, very high assets. If I just remove him, it's going to skew the number here, 1.42. Here's 1.42. 0.18 when there's earnings, because this is based on earnings. So first you got to do the 500,000 in sales. Then you got to show the profit. Then we got to get the 1.88. That's how it works. But people are looking for, 3, 4, 5 years worth of financials. We don't have that. So the way around that is with a pro forma. So no matter what we need to do, getting on the market helps us accumulate the leads. A pro forma gives a projection, and that's for a prospective buyer to determine if they want to take the risk or not. And at least we're on the market. We're on the highway where buyers are, so that you, as my owner, have options later. Should you make a price correction? Should sales go? At least I know who to talk to. I'm making a phone book for you over time. So again, I do not recommend waiting. See, there's even a way to search for listings. I could do a search just for pro forma. I could add comments. I would have to get rid of pro forma because people like to buy things that are on the tax returns. So let me do all sources of data and with the comments. So these are the same solds, but there's 18 of them, and I sold one of them. That was with you. Here, 25 years, 70 plus Google, 46 years. We don't have 46 years, nor do I recommend you trying to be in business for 46 years if you want to get it sold. You get the idea. I can go back without these earnings. Here's what they're selling for. The assets of 30 sold for 40. The assets of 375 sold for 375. The assets of 78 sold for 78. This is when there's no sales and no profit. 158 with 50,000 in profit, but 249 in sales sold for 210. So what they basically did is they took 1 year's earnings plus the assets, and they sold it for 210. 190 making 50 with 126 sold for 250. So again, it looks like they took approximately 1 year plus the assets and they put it together. We're missing this whole column, so I would compare it to the 000, and they don't want just a few months worth of profits. They want to see years worth of profits. And if you're going to wait to do the marketing after you have those couple of years, now you're many years in the future. And the only difference is you might get a little extra over here, but with a creative P&L, and if we're on the market properly, you have a competent agent like I am, we might get lucky without having to do all that work. 30,000 in assets, sold for 20 with 60 in earnings. See how this works. Sold for 197, so basically it sold for just the asset value. 58 sold for 68, but they were making 70 and they had 84. So we know what yours sold for after being on the market that period of time. I could do it any way you want. I recommend we write up a pro forma based on the ratios. Here, I'll show you the ratios. Ratios that we know the earnings on $500,000 should be. If I got rid of the ones that looked over $500,000, here, these are all under, and I recalculate, here, your 1 times earnings, 100 days on the market. But we know that the sold price is 74% of sales. We don't have enough sales. If you want 250, 70%, you got to do, what is that, 300, 3.25, something like that? It doesn't make any sense to wait all those years to build that up. The earnings should be about 31% on the dollar, 38 and 1.47 of the discretionary earnings when you have earnings and you have major sales. So if you made 50, you'd only get 150. If you sold it for asset value, you'd get 200. If I do a pro forma, I might get you that 250. But I need time on the market and I need owner's cooperation. 86 cents on the deposit, down payment, 13% rent. All right, so that's how it works. Again, I'm here for you. I've been doing this for 33 years. Oh, I want you to please check out my YouTube channel. It'll really help you. It'll give you the confidence, number one, that I know what I'm doing. I have a YouTube channel, Eric Sell My Business. I think this will be very helpful for you if you are not familiar with how this works. I have all these videos that I've made over the years, and I have more this year. We just started doing this. How to sell a business to happy closings, how commissions work, minimum commissions. This will explain that 10 versus 12% commission for you, how we fill out the listing agreement, the clauses, how buyers value businesses, all of that. Dry cleaners, hair salons, restaurants, you name it. How recasting is done. Very, very educational. I'd really like for you to take some time and visit this. I'm here 954-562-2019, 954-562-2019. Let's get this thing up and running. Please do an e-sign. Let's get a pro forma that we can agree to that makes sense as ratios that the buyers would expect, because we're hoping someone's in the industry and they know what they're talking about. So I would take $500,000 as a projection, the ratio of what the profit should be minus the expenses. That'll be the difference. I'd get you to sign off on it. Let's get on the market. Let's work together and get this thing sold. Okay? Let me know how I can help. 954-562-2019, 954-562-2019. Bye-bye.